What's up, everybody? In today's tutorial, we're going to look at how to link two sheets or multiple sheets together in a Google Sheet or Excel spreadsheet based on a primary key or a common set of data. So what we're going to do is take data from this sheet in sheet 1 and dynamically populate data in another sheet based off this primary key. So when you're working with databases or data tables, it's always a really good idea to come up with some sort of unique identifier in all of your tables. That way you can link everything together. That allows for better analysis, better maintainability, and you can dive down into the metrics to try to drive key performance indicators based off of your data. So how do we do that? Well, what we need to do is first find that primary key. So in this fictitious data set, I've been working on an SEO project for a client, and I wanted to show some of the work that I'm doing. So I created this data set which has keywords that somebody might search for inside Google or a search engine. So that's going to be my primary key for this example here. So we've got this column A called primary key, and to create a relationship, I'm just going to copy that column and add a new sheet. And I'm going to call this sheet number 2. So that we'll refer to as our sheet 1 as our master data and sheet 2 as our new data output or some sort of analysis. So we're going to create this primary key in both data sets, and now we have the potential to link them through some sort of relational formula or some sort of function that's going to tie this data together. So let's create a few more columns here. So we might have competitor, and then we might have competitor URL, because if we're doing an SEO project, we're wanting to look at our competitors, what are they putting out as far as content, and how the Google algorithm is ranking their website versus my website to try to figure out what we need to do to gain ranking and move up that list of Google higher and higher. So I might want to create this new sheet with competitor data and then bring over some data from my sheet 1, such as my rank, difficulty, and page. So I'm going to copy rank and difficulty columns, paste those here. I'm going to go grab this page column header and paste that here. So we've got these columns right here, which is going to be our related data, and I'm going to color a border around that as dark green, so that you know that this is related data, and this is going to be red for new data, and this one right here is going to be purple, and that's going to show our primary key. So I'm just going to do this purple color here, just like that. So we've got our primary key, our new data, and then our related data. So we might have competitor A, competitor B, competitor C, like that. And we might just be looking at those 3 competitors here, and then we'd have their URL like so. So that's our new data. We went to Google, we searched for some of these values, we found that competitor A is beating us, and here's their link so we can go look at their web page. But instead of coming over to sheet 1 and saying, well, what are we currently ranking for here? Or what did our SEO software that checks rankings tell us? We'd have to come over and then do a Control F or some sort of search or filter to find this value, and then come and copy and paste the data that we wanted, creating a static link. And the word static is what you should be paying attention to, because anytime you're doing static activities, that's called rework. And nobody likes to do rework. We like to work smart, not hard. So let's create a dynamic link so that if our master data in sheet 1 changes, our child data or our analysis or data view will update along with it. So how do we do that? Well, we use a formula called VLOOKUP, which is a really powerful formula. And all you do is you come into the cell that you want to link, and you type equal VLOOKUP, and then you get your formula started, and then it takes 4 different arguments. And the first argument is the primary key. So what do we want to link back to in our other spreadsheet? Well, we want to link back to this unique identifier, which is in column A. That's that column that we created to have some sort of link between the two sheets. Then we're going to hit a comma and come over to that sheet and then just select all data by hitting this top button in Google Sheets, or I think Excel has the same function where you can just click it and it's going to select the whole sheet. Then the next argument is which column here do you want to return? And you don't click into it because it's based on an index starting at number 1. So column A is number 1, column B is number 2, and so on. So if we're trying to link in our ranking, which is kind of hidden behind this formula here, it's column D, where we want to pull over our rank. We just come and count 1, 2. We type 2. We hit comma and then type false. So what this false argument does is says, hey, I'm telling the sheet that this set of primary keys is unique and it doesn't ever repeat. There are no duplicates. And that's saying, do we sort this column, yes or no? Because if it was sorted, you might have duplicates. It's going to return the very first value. So you want to make sure your primary key data is unique and doesn't duplicate itself in any row. And this formula allows for you to look at duplicate primary key data by saying true. And what that's going to do is just return the very first one that it finds. So if I had a bunch of duplicates here, it's going to find the very first one and ignore all the rest. That's why your primary key should be unique for every database that you work with. So we've got VLOOKUP, and we're looking up this value over here. We're going to come to our sheet 1 and just select all data in the sheet. Then we're going to look in column 2 and say false, that we're not worrying about sorting because this is an exact match. And we hit enter and we get this awesome value 3 here, which then I can just double click all the way down and then come over here and say, all right, let's go fact check and make sure that we do a QA. Indeed, we've got 315414. 315414, and then if we update this, let's say 100, drag that down, now we've got this automatically updating along with that sheet based on this primary key. How cool is that? So let's do it again with difficulty, because practice makes perfect, equals VLOOKUP. Come over to sheet 1, come over to column A, click it. Because it's our primary key, hit the comma button, come back, select the whole sheet, hit the comma button, and then we want to get our difficulty, which is in index position 3, starting at 1, 2, 3, comma false, because we are not sorting our unique identifiers. Now we've got difficulty 13. Let's double check that, 13. We change this to 26, it automatically updates to 26. Free online teleprompter, we'll just do a quick QC, is 40, 40. So if we wanted to extend that one more time to get our web page off of sheet 1 or whatever data, you know, this is just all fictitious data. We want to get data from 1, 2, 3, 4, index position 5. Just do this again, equals VLOOKUP. Click it, select your primary key, hit comma, come over, select all data, hit comma, hit the number 5, hit comma, hit false. And that's how easy VLOOKUP is. I think it's a great tool because it allows you to create all this new data and then all of this related data. So related data is in green here. Can bring all of this down and say green, like so. So there's our related data, and then here's our new data. So this would be like a data view, so a report, key performance indicator, something like that. And then in purple is our primary key. So how does this all tie together? Your primary key, this purple data over here. Select this purple. All of this data right here is your primary key, and that's what's linking these two together right here. Pretty cool. So VLOOKUP, we'll go over the arguments one more time. We've got equals VLOOKUP, open parentheses. You select the first value in that row for your primary key, and I always like to put that as the very first column. That way I know that's my primary key. We then go to the sheet we want to link to and select all data. We don't select one column, we select all data because we're saying, hey, we might want any one of these columns. Let's just go grab all data. That's the second argument. And then the third argument is going to be the column index number starting at an index of 1. And then you just have to go count 1, 2. And then comma, false, because we are not going to have duplicate primary keys. It's all unique. So this is just saying this data doesn't need to be sorted, and it's an exact one-to-one match. Now, let's say we've done all this other work and we want to see data from sheet 2 over into sheet 1. We could come and say competitor like that, and we could do a bidirectional relationship back over to the other sheet. So equals VLOOKUP, and we're going to select our value here in column A. We're going to look up based on this lookup value, this primary key, comma, sheet 2, select all data, comma, the column index 1, 2. So our competitor is in column 2, and false because we are not sorting and we have a one-to-one match. So now we've got competitors coming through just like that. So now we have a bidirectional link between sheets. Now, if this was your primary master data and all of these columns are coming out of whatever tool generates your report, of course you'd have to rebuild this every single time. But it shows you that you could quickly bring a related data set over as long as you have a primary key. Sheet 2 would be an example of a data output, a dashboard, a set of metrics based off of your master data, or maybe you pass work product A. So you have group A that has a product that is sheet 1, and it moves to a secondary team, and their job is to work on the data output or work product number 2. And then they can run all of this, but then bring in that related data from the other team to say, hey, now we've got this really great view taking all the team's work and bundling it up into a report. So that's how you do that with VLOOKUP. One thing to note inside your organizations, if you have teams that don't have a well-defined standard operating procedure for what they produce, each team should be producing a certain data output or a certain set of tasks. You don't want to not know what your team is doing. So productize your teams, make sure each team member knows what they're doing and each team is producing the work that they're hired to produce. Then they can pass on that work to the next part of the organization so that they can do their part. But remember, master data. You don't ever want to have a second team down the road go in and edit master data. So whatever's pumping out data in sheet 1, let that process and procedure run the show, and then we build off of that. We don't ever want to come in here, make an update that's manual. We want to rerun the process. Whatever it is that exports this, maybe your IT department exports this report. Anytime you make a change to master data, it needs to be changed in the database. So that's just a little tip on how you manage master data and how you can get your teams working in a smart fashion where each team has a certain product that they produce. And then you can use VLOOKUP inside your spreadsheets to relate all that together. Same way you build relationships inside a database. All right, I hope this helps. Drop down any comments you have in the comments below, any questions, and I'll do my best to answer those. See you in the next one.